Welcome back to Brashonomics. Lucky enough to have Aubrey Cohen joining us today from the Seattle PI. And you can catch all of Aubrey's writings at theseattlepi.com. Mr. Cohen, how are you, my man?
Oh, doing great. Just nothing like a December in Seattle to lift your spirits.
That's correct. If you got to go down to like Snowflake Lane or one of those places and watch all the kids stare at the fake snow and dancing around. That'll lift the spirits a little bit.
Yeah, I'm dreaming of a wet Christmas.
So Aubrey, let's talk a little bit about, we are here in the Christmas season, and typically we see house prices go down. Yet here we are, you just wrote an article about house prices, and they are definitely, in King County at least, not going down.
They really, really aren't. They're actually up month over month, which is, as you say, unusual. And then we've continued to see these annual increases. Last month, we had prices up 20% from a year earlier, which is almost getting us, that's getting us back into the bubble territory, it seems like.
Isn't that incredible? So you almost start getting back to where the high was, and potentially in the next 12 months, it sounds like.
Well, it'll be interesting to see because we're still pretty far off the high. Let's see. The prices hit their peak back in 2007, and we're still down 15% from there. So we got a ways to go. If it keeps going like this, maybe. I think the thing to see will be, as we get into the selling season next spring, do sellers respond to what we've been seeing in the marketplace and say, okay, I've got a house, I'm ready to sell it. Can sellers sell? Prices come up enough so that they're not underwater anymore? Can they get their houses ready, and will it be enough?
Mm-hmm. It's when you think about the price increases, it does raise some eyebrows as to what that may mean for the future. When you start talking, as you said, you actually mentioned in your article, 19.7% from a year ago. So, nearly 20% increases. That just starts to raise some eyebrows. Like, are we doing this again?
Yeah, and that's the very question I asked to Glenn Krellen, who's over at the UW Runstad Center for Real Estate Research. And, what he said is that we could continue to see these kinds of increases for the next little while. But it's such a slow time of the year that it's not a great time to judge how bubbly we're getting. He said, this would be concerned for being in a bubble or for the fact that we're at the point in the housing calendar that's going to lead to slower levels of activity anyway. So he thinks next spring that we are going to get an influx of homes onto the market, and that will ease the increases. And then another point that should be made is that these increases are affected by the composition of the houses that happen to sell. When you talk about a median sales price, sometimes there's a change. It could be that people decide to buy a more expensive house because interest rates are down, because people look at their payment and they say, okay, well, the same payment now gets me more house, so they'll buy a bigger, more expensive house or in a nicer location.
Sure.
Another thing to consider is that if you have fewer distressed sales, if you have fewer houses that are in foreclosure or under threat of foreclosure, then that can affect things because those houses tend to sell at a discount. And in fact, we do have fewer of those. There are other housing indexes out there that what they do is they look at repeat sales of the same homes, and so that tries to gauge the real change in market value, and those have not hit double digits yet. Of course, they also lag. We don't get those until a little while after. Mm-hmm. They're not as immediate as these multiple listing service statistics. So it'll be interesting to see once we get those numbers for November where they are. They're not going to be 20%, but maybe they will be in double digits for the first time since the bust.
I think you make a very good point, though, when you talk about it's the houses that are selling, because on our show we've covered at length. There are houses that sell and there are houses that sit, and people really do want these turnkey style homes, and some of the ones that need fixing, they sit. You can go on any of these websites, you'll see days on market. There's a pretty big variance between what's selling and what's not, I imagine.
Yeah, people I think people are still a little bit leery because of what we saw in the housing boom and bust. And back then we had people who they'd look at a house and they say, okay, this will do, and they'd make a bid. And now they look for something wrong with it. And yeah, you see some houses that they seem pretty nice, but those ones aren't selling. And another house gets 4 or 5 offers and gets bid up. People are back to doing pre-inspections, and so I think the house does have to be right. I think another factor is you have a lot of Seattle's blessed to have a lot of young professionals who make a decent amount of money coming in, but those folks, this is if you're buying your first house, you're going to be really careful, and these people are not used to having to grab a wrench. They want a house that looks right. Anything that throws them off, they're not going to think, oh, that's easy, I can fix that. That's not a big deal. They're going to think, I don't know.
It's funny. We were talking about that the other day, about how things have gotten so complex. It used to be maybe a guy could go, service their own furnace or do something with their car or whatever it may be. And now, because of how efficient and technologically savvy so many pieces of a house are, people don't walk in usually thinking, oh, I could just do that. It's like, okay, I'm going to have that done. Plus, people are so busy, especially as you talked about the young professionals that are coming in with Amazon, with Google, with Facebook, with Microsoft still. They might be great computer engineers, but, they might not be the structural engineers who should be doing things to houses.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, though these days houses are so computerized, maybe they are the right guys.
It's true.
As you point out, yeah, things have got more complicated. And at the same time, people aren't growing up watching their dads or moms, as the case might be, out there fixing the car or fixing something in the house. I think that sort of idea that we all have a basic level of knowledge of how to fix stuff has kind of gone away a little bit anyway.
Yeah, They say that hobbies are dying in place of television shows.
Well, yeah, and we're in place of hanging out at work and until all hours, because sometimes you're working and sometimes you're up, playing ping pong or whatever it is, and so.
Or sometimes you're at home working on your computer or your laptop or your iPad or whatever it may be.
Right. I mean, heck, people don't even cook anymore, right? So they're certainly not going to be fixing stuff.
It is. I think that you make a great point, though, and that's a lot of times why maybe these core areas and newer homes in the core areas are so desirable, because people want to go downstairs and maybe get teriyaki for the family, or they want to go. Both parents maybe have been working all day. They come home. You don't want to put a whole meal together. It can feel like kind of a daunting task that isn't relaxing. I know that's how it is at our house. Like, oh gosh. Okay, we got to do dinner. Like, what are we going to do? We've both been working all day, and then once dinner's over, you look up, and you got pots and pans and dishes, and you're like, what did we do? Why didn't we just go get, like, teriyaki? We could have just, that's us.
and you don't want to have to hop in the car to do it either. I mean, with things the way they are in this area, once you get your car home, you want to leave it there, and, if you're going somewhere, you want to walk.
Isn't that the truth?
Do with it.
Yeah. Especially if there's undercover. Aubrey Cohen joins us with the Seattle PI. Aubrey, we just have a couple minutes left. When you start looking at these numbers, are they more sensitive to pockets such as neighborhoods, cities versus? I mean, we talk about King County as a whole. What tends to be the sensitivity on the location?
I think that it's hard to look month by month to specific locations, because when the smaller location, you get these lower sales numbers, and so they fly all over the place. But in general, the cities, the close-in areas are doing much better. I mean, in general, inventory is a good indication. We have extremely low inventory everywhere, but in Seattle, you have 1.7 months worth of homes on the market. At the current sales place, we have enough homes to last for 1.7 months, and countywide it's 2.1 months. And that's kind of a typical thing, where in the city it's tighter. And we have the same thing when we look at when we look at some of the places like Bellevue or just the other urban centers. And I think the farther out areas are a little looser, especially if you get out into Snohomish and Pierce counties. They have not been faring as well as King County, and they have more of those distressed homes, and they have more homes that are sitting unsold.
Yeah, and then I guess when you only have it's so tight in the core areas, I would think that would make the median price bounce up and down even more, because one sale or two sales can make a huge difference in these numbers.
Yeah, it's really true, and condo numbers can just be crazy. I mean, 1 month they can be up by 25%, and the next month they can be down by 10%. So it's really, there's a lot of noise there. So you have to look across a bunch of months, but then when things are changing really rapidly the way they have been in recent months, if you're trying to average together, 4 or 5 months, you're not going to get a picture of where things are now. So it's a little noisy.
Sure. Well, Aubrey, always a pleasure talking to you, man. And you are, you're one of those guys who went out and bought a new house.
Yes, we did. We stayed in Ballard. We, as you guys know, I love Ballard.
We do know that. Yeah. I think everybody who listens to our show knows you love Ballard.
And we're just 12 blocks north, but still can, as I say, park the car and go out and walk the stuff.
Attaboy. Still walk down to pick up dinner so nobody has to cook, huh?
That's right.
I'm in. Aubrey, thanks again, man. I hope you're doing well. Happy holidays. We'll talk with you soon.
You too. Thanks a lot.
You got it. Again, Aubrey Cohen with the Seattle PI. When we come back, Aaron Janus joins us for the first time, managing broker and certified residential specialist with the Janus Group at RE/MAX Integrity. We'll be right back after this break.